Thank you for listening to the BJJ Brick Podcast. We'll be bringing you Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and good times. We hope to flatten your Jiu-Jitsu learning curve, help you get the most out of your grappling ability, and meet your goals both on and off the mat.
Welcome back, my friends, to the BJJ Brick Podcast. This is episode 82. We have an interview with Sam Spiegelman. My name is Byron Jabara, and I'm here with my buddy Gary.
How are you doing today, Byron? Get another episode going.
Gary, I am doing great. It's good to have another episode here. I'm actually in the process of buying / selling / moving houses. So I'm a little bit busy nowadays, Gary.
Well, that's why you've been so nice to me lately. You're probably getting ready to ask me to help you move.
Well, Gary's already off the air. Gary already volunteered to help out. So hey, he's such a nice guy. That guy, Gary. Dang it, he's so freaking nice.
I'm actually just doing it because Byron offered to have barbecue for the people helping. So I'm just going to supervise and then eat.
Hey, we got to eat, Gary.
Yeah, yep.
Gotta eat. And we do need good quality supervision and a guy with a clipboard that stands around and makes sure things are getting done.
Well, I'll definitely have a clipboard and a pocket protector, so I'm ready to roll.
Pete, it's hard to be lazy when somebody's got a clipboard near you. That's what I found.
Yep, I'll keep everybody moving.
We're in the midst of moving, which includes the computer, all the Skype machine thing, the sound mixer and microphones and stuff like that. But I've got a few shows backlogged, and Gary and I are working hard to try to produce a show every week, and more specifically on Mondays, what we go for. But hopefully we'll get it out every week in the next coming weeks while things are adjusting. And
hey, speaking of the new house, Byron didn't consult with me on the new house, or didn't let me go on the walkthrough and everything in the new house.
That's true.
Do you have a recording studio in there?
We're going to make it happen, Gary.
Okay.
Don't you worry, man.
Yep.
All we need is a little room for the desk and a computer and some microphones, buddy. So it's going to be underneath the bed this time. Sweet. Upgraded. So great interview coming up this week with Sam Spiegelman, excellent strength and conditioning coach. And if you do jiu-jitsu, a perfect strength and conditioning coach, because he's geared towards helping you with your strength and conditioning, specifically towards jiu-jitsu. And during part of the interview, I mentioned that people. I always kind of bring this up again. People pass the same way to the same side every time. It seems like, but it's hard to stand like with your wrong leg forward or whatever, and it's just difficult. So that's why you pass that way. Well, he mentioned some things you could do to kind of strengthen your legs to make it more easier for you to have that combat base or a stance and have your feet be backwards and have a good balance. So that's just
what I need. Byron is the first guy who started passing my guard the other way, and now you're just even going to get better at it. Yeah, just what I need.
Sorry, Gary. I just can't pass your guard the other way, so I got to switch it up, man.
Well, hey, don't worry. I'm going to see if I can get a private lesson with Sam and how to strengthen up my guard on the other side so you can't pass it. So there. I'll pull that back on you.
Okay. Sounds good, buddy. Always a little bit of an arms race on the mats with your best training partners, isn't it?
Yeah, we're always pushing each other. That's the key.
If you have a martial arts brand or school or you're working on some sort of a logo, we've got a friend here in town. His name's Taylor Mullen. He's got his contact information is on our website under custom martial arts logos. If you just type in custom and logos in the search bar, he'll pop up. Give him a holler. We've got some examples of stuff he's done on the website you can look at. He's helped us out a ton. He's a purple belt. He trains all the time. He's a really nice guy, and we like sending him a little bit of support.
So definitely check out Taylor. Great guy, great artist, great jiu-jitsu guy. As I said last week, he's the triple threat.
Yep, and he will help on your back. He will help on your back and apply a quick choke, which Gary tried to do while I'm at his bank. I'm trying to connect business, probably the largest business transaction of my life, and Gary's trying to give me a rear naked choke.
Well, the bad thing is I tried to sneak up on him while he was sitting in a chair, and Byron knew I was there.
Yeah,
he defended well.
I always make sure there's a mirror pointing to the behind me. It's the old Chuck Norris tip.
Great tip.
If you want to support the BJJ Brick podcast, you're more than welcome to do that, and we do appreciate any support we can get. Or if you are in your first year of jiu-jitsu and looking for a little bit of help, either one of those reasons is a good reason to go buy our audiobook. your first year in BJJ, where we will try to walk you through many of the bumps and obstacles that you may encounter and help smooth those out and give you some good coaching advice. If I could talk to you for 2.5 hours about training your first year, this is what I would say. So that's basically what the book is. It's $11.99. Look for the link on the show notes or on the website, and we appreciate your support.
Yeah, and how many times I wish I had something like that available when I started jiu-jitsu. Your first year is very tough. You don't really know what to do. You don't know the questions to ask, and that's what Byron's helping you through. He's helping you through the rough first year, and you get past that. I can't say it's going to be smooth sailing because jiu-jitsu is never smooth sailing. You're always learning, and there's always bumps in the roads, but that first year is tough, and navigating the waters there makes it much, much easier.
I will throw this out there. I can guarantee that the audiobook will make your sailing 1% smoother. Guaranteed.
And hey,
take 1% that to the bank, man.
Is very important.
No, it's the
it really is. 1%. You think about it, just moving your game up 1%, anything, 1%. Do it this month, 1% next month. Yeah. You're just getting better and better.
No, my goal with the audiobook was to help people stay motivated and to train and to just get past that first year with success and become the best they can within that first year. And I think it will help out anybody who's in that year-ish range tremendously and help you avoid a lot of the common obstacles that we're faced with today. So if you'd like to do that, we really appreciate it. If you'd like to support somebody else, a more worthy cause, we have our friend Amber Oxford Haynes, who is we have a fundraiser going for her. And this is the last week. We'll mention this because of there's a grapple-thon on May 16th, and you're more than welcome to come grapple. It's a 12-hour event. And if you're unable to come here to Wichita, Kansas, and grapple in the grapple-thon, you can still contribute online. We'll put links to their website where you can donate money and send a little bit of support her way. She's unable to go to one of her many jobs while she's doing her treatments, so we're just trying to get together as a community and help out a local grappler here, and we do appreciate the national and international support that Amber is able to get through the community. So Amber has been a great friend here locally in the jiu-jitsu community. She's helped a lot of people start grappling, especially with the women's jiu-jitsu here in town, and it's good to be able to support her and give her a little bit of help at this time.
Yeah, definitely. She's a great person. Like Byron said, supports jiu-jitsu, women, men, kids. She's great with kids, just incredible, and just try to help them out through this stressful time.
Now, we got to get on to our article of the week here. I mentioned it last week, and I had such a great teaser that's only 3 words long, and it's a very impactful quote. Did I say article? I meant quote.
Yeah, the quote of the week.
So Gary's been bugging me all week about this quote.
Yeah, you've been talking about it so much. I had to find out about it.
Actually, to be honest, we're recording these 2 episodes, the introductions here back to back because of my moving stuff is going on. So we've got to hammer out a couple in a row here. So Gary's been bugging me he definitely was interested in between shows about this quote. So without any further ado, Gary,
tell me.
Yeah, here's our friend Chris Easter. He was last week's interview. If you want to check that out, I'm sure if you haven't heard it, this quote is going to nudge you that way. So here we go.
I'm always know your why. No matter what you're doing, know your why. Understand the consequences. Like I'm always telling people that you can do whatever you want to do in life. Just be able to prepare for the consequences for when you got to pay for your actions. So that's kind of the 2 things I live by.
Know your why and understand the consequences. I
tell people you can punch choke him from the guard. Just know the consequence of doing that if he's going to armbar you. So be ready to pull your arm out. So I tell guys, know the consequence of your actions, and whether it's on the mat or you walk through that store and you don't have that money for something. You talk to a kid like you can steal that if you want to, but when you get caught, you're going to jail. So just know the consequences of life, man. And know your why. Know why you do stuff. Know why you're driven. Some people it's family. Some people it's money. Some people it's for the belt. They come to class. Because I noticed like if Sergio go watch his son wrestle in college, whatever, and people know Sergio's not there, they don't come to class because hey, Sergio's not there. So know your why. Why are you doing something? Some people it's fame. Some people it's for women. So what drives you.
Can you think of a time off the mat that you thought to yourself, why am I doing this? What is my why? And it helped you make a decision that was good?
Studying for promotion. I just found out I made E9 in the military, so I'll be pitting on Chief Master Sergeant in the Air Force.
Wow, congratulations.
Yeah, appreciate it. So a lot of times it's like when I don't want to study, I'm tired of studying. Sometimes, man, I study so hard I have headaches. So I'll cut out pictures of cars that I want to buy, or this nice house I want to buy, or I'll put the money increase, or I'll put that stripe up on my book, whatever, up on my wall, and I'm sitting there watching TV and I see that stripe staring at me. I'm like, what's your why? Well, I need to go over there and study, so I'll cut the TV off and go study. So, just helping me push through life, push through the military, push through the hard times. Sometimes I'm in situations like when I'm in Afghanistan, we were out convoying, doing all that kind of stuff, and hey, your why is to get home. Your why is to take care of your teammate that's next to you and to get home. That's your why. So, I use it all the time.
Cool. I'm going to start asking myself that when I'm questioning something I'm doing or when I'm having a hard time. I think it'll be a good reminder of things.
Yep. Why are you doing it? What's your why?
This interview took place a little while back, a couple weeks back, and I've been asking myself about my why several times since then, and it makes you at least reflect on why you're doing something and what value it's bringing to your life.
I really liked his own, how he's using it on himself. When you ask him, give us an example of you using it in your everyday life. And, for the promotion, he was studying so hard, and he'd put the pictures up, and he'd be sitting there watching TV, and he'd be staring back at him. He's like, oh, this is why I need to get back to studying. I need to do this. I thought that was a great idea. And, know your consequences. I've never really broke something down to that, what's going to be the consequences, really. And I think that's awesome. Know your why.
Yeah. So I would urge you throughout your week here just to try out the Know Your Why thing. Try it out at work once or twice, whether you're working on a project or working with a team or working with somebody that you don't like to work with. Ask yourself your why. Why am I doing this? And that'll either help motivate you or maybe make you think about making some changes. And then try it on the mat too. Know your why. Why are you on the mat? What is the reason? And your why can change, and that's perfectly fine. But if you're frustrated with how your grappling is going today, some days you have bad days. What's my why? Well, my why is to become better at jiu-jitsu. My why is to stay in shape. Figure out what your why is, self-defense, and that'll remind you. And I think it's a good question to ask yourself periodically.
Yeah, well, the bad part is Byron's talked about how he's been asking himself here this, what's my why for the last couple of weeks. The bad thing is we are no longer friends. He realized that I was bringing him down. So, he dumped me.
Dang it. I didn't think you were going to say this on the podcast, Gary.
Well, we'll save that for our other podcast.
We're actually podcasting from different locations, so this is over Skype here, and a lot of times Gary comes over. And
he won't let me anymore.
And I usually train Saturday mornings with Gary, and I didn't
show
make
up
it today. Morning. So it's been a rough time.
I totally understand it now.
Yeah, that's my why. Why is Gary so awesome? And I'm just trying to figure this out because he's bringing me down. I keep comparing myself to Gary.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's all I can say about that.
I try to make it as honest as I can for Gary, and I think he does the same for me. And I don't know why.
Yeah.
So we got our music is rolling in, Gary.
Article of the week. 5 competition essentials from OKKimonosblog.com. Basically, it's a day of competition. Your alarm goes off. You're heading out the door. What are things you need to bring? First one is music. And like they say, it's probably the most common is a music device and headphones. People listen to music to get fired up, to relax, just get you ready. But you don't necessarily have to listen to music. You can listen to the BJJ mental coach from Gustavo Dantas, who was one of our previous guests. Anything to get your head right, to get you ready to get out there on the mat, to keep you calm or get you amped up, whatever works best for you.
Yeah, if a certain episode of the podcast was like super motivating, save it on your phone or whatever you listen to on, and you can play that before. If that doesn't make it, that might make you fail. But you just have something to distract you throughout the day. A lot of times you might bring a phone charger or one of those little portable batteries that you could get because your phone is going to be going crazy with all these people in the same room. It should burn through the battery faster, which is unfortunate. Another thing you should bring is water. Gary, your body is mostly comprised of water. It's going to want more water, and it's going to want you to drink that water. And especially if you're going to do an athletic event, being hydrated is a pretty big key to being successful.
Big key right there. Extra gi. Don't forget the extra gi. Sometimes during gi checks, there may be your patches may be off. You're maybe too short of a gi, and they won't allow your gi. Also, somebody with grip strength of Byron has been known to rip people's sleeves off. So you may need another gi with a sleeve after you've went with Byron. So extra gi is important.
Yeah, if I had a nickel for every time I had to buy somebody new gi sleeves, I'd be rich. Warm up gear. This could be foam rollers, jump ropes, whatever. I mean, it's so easy to throw a jump rope in your bag. I mean, that's a pretty simple thing. But you're going to want to be warmed up however you like to do it. If you're not used to jumping rope, probably not going to idea to jump rope that day. But, some jogging shoes and some really short jogging shorts for you. That would be nice to jog down the street a little bit and warm up. However you want to warm up, be ready to warm up with that.
And let me just tell you, you don't have to necessarily wear the short jogging shorts just because Byron likes those. You can also wear longer ones. So just wanted to throw that out there.
And those could be cut to make them shorter. That's how you got to do it, man.
Number 5, and remember, there is going to be 6 because Byron's adding 1. But,
I'm going to add 2, actually.
Yeah, I'm going to go number 5 here, coach. It's always beneficial to have a coach, but it's like the author here points out, not anybody is really qualified to be your coach. I mean, anybody can tell you how much time's left or whatever, but it's nice to have somebody who knows you, knows your game, knows the type of person you are. So it's nice to have somebody who can guide you through there who knows you.
Yeah, and I will say for Gary, it's always funny watching Gary at a tournament. He adopts people to coach. Like if you're there competing, you have no coach, you're just out there by yourself, and Gary sees this, and you show heart, and you're fighting hard, Gary will start coaching you. And it's funny because after Gary's guy gets out of the first round, they'll talk, and he'll talk to him about what they want to do and try to learn about the guy. And the guy will go out and win again, and they'll come back, and Gary talk. I'm like, Gary, who is this guy? He goes, I don't know. Or you'll know his first name, and that's it. I'm like, how do you? I think every tournament I've seen Gary at, he's adopted somebody to coach, and he's just. By the end of the day, Gary's lost his voice, and he's coached several people he doesn't even know. That if they don't have a coach, and he sees that, he'll kind of watch and see if they're trying their best and their heart's in it, and he'll start trying to help them out. That's always a cool thing I see Gary doing.
It's just something I really love to do. So yeah. I enjoy it.
Item number 6 that I'm just going to add on here, they bring some snacks. Their food that they have available for you might not be what you want to eat right before a competition. Bring a couple of snacks, be durable, be ready to go. If you're going to go out 2, be ready to wait an extra 5 hours till you roll. Be ready for whatever happens that day. And the most important thing here that you could bring that's not already on the list, I would say, was to bring a smile. How easy is that, Gary?
Man, that's it. Bring the smile.
So put that in your bag and pull it out win or loss and before the match. Try to have a good time. Because remember, know your why. Why are you there competing?
And really, a lot of it goes back to that smile. But hey, I want to go back to number 6. You talked about bring a snack. We can go back a couple previous episodes. The banana. We had a whole article about bananas, so you might want to check that one out.
Yeah, that was a fun article.
Yeah.
That's what I like about the articles is that they bring in a variety to the show that we couldn't bring in ourselves. And if let's say we're interviewing somebody that you may not know who it is, you're going to get a fun quote, and you're going to get an article by Sam Spiegelman or Mark Mullen or somebody like that. It's going to be a great article, and so the minimum you're getting that, and then the interview is going to be a good time too. But you may not know who that is, so.
And speaking of articles, I've learned a lot just going over our article of the week. But like I was telling Byron on this one, Byron had found this article, the 5 Competition Essentials, Kimono's blog there. And then I was like, hey, before we got on air here, I was like, hey, did you see the related posts? 4 things to do while waiting for your match, 5 ways to stay injury-free. And I was like, man, there's a lot of great information here on this blog. And so, hey, I've got another blog. I'm going to learn some more stuff.
Yep, so swing by, check out their website. You could find it on our show notes or on our website. We'll have a link, or any way you might find it. It's a nice read there. In today's interview, you are going to hear tons of great advice, specifically geared towards strength and conditioning. Just a reminder here, Sam Spiegelman is available for consulting over the internet. Get a hold of him on his website, and he'll be happy to work with you and help you reach your goals. We do have... what's up, Gary? What should we do next?
I think we should go on to the, as we call it, the meat and potatoes of our show, our interview.
Let's get on with the interview with Sam Spiegelman. Here we go. He is the most interesting grappler in the world.
When he gets someone in a calf slicer, all baby cows scream in pain or walk with a limp. He created the Great Lakes with a heavy side mount. He could jump into a muddy pond and catch Turtle Man without getting bit.
I don't always listen to podcasts, but when I do, I prefer the BJJ Brick podcast. Stay sweaty, my friends.
All right, my friends, I'm happy to bring Sam Spiegelman to the BJJ Brick podcast. Sam is a author. He writes a lot about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and he is a strength and conditioning coach. Sam, welcome to the BJJ Brick podcast.
Thank you guys for having me. It's awesome.
We're happy to have you here and happy to read your articles and learn from those, and excited to get you on the show and learn from you here over the audio instead of just reading.
Thank you.
Could you kind of describe yourself, who you are, where you're from, and what you're doing?
Sure. So I'm a brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu under Mark Vives from UB Training Center. We're located in Niles, Illinois. It's a suburb right outside of Chicago. I do everything from beach jiu-jitsu for beginners, for kids, and then I run a strength conditioning program, and most of the strength conditioning clients are Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu competitors, non-competitors, people that just got in the sport or are in the sport and looking to take that next step. I write articles from anything from strength conditioning to recovery work to mobility exercises, all guided for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu athletes.
Cool. And what got you into doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu?
Had a life event when I was finishing up college. My parents were both pretty sick. I lost my mom when I was in school, and then about a year or two later, actually like a year and a half later, my dad passed as well. Sorry, other way around, dad first, mom second. So I just needed something to do, to be honest. Like I needed an outlet. I played football in college, and I just needed something to kind of fill that time and blow off some steam. And I started with Judo, and one of the guys from the Judo Academy started doing Jiu-Jitsu, and one thing led to another, and I went to Jiu-Jitsu class, and I never looked back.
Well, that sounds like a very rough experience in your life at an early age. You were a little bit in college, getting out of college, or towards the end of your college.
Yeah, I was a senior. I was finishing up my senior year.
Wow, and then have both your parents gone from your life like that. That's a hard thing for it. I can't comprehend that experience myself, but it sounds like a very difficult time. And so you stumbled upon Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and that kind of helped you mentally, or helped you get through a tough time in your life. Or tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. I mean, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and any kind of sport in general is a really good, I guess, distraction, so to speak. But especially with Jiu-Jitsu and combat sports, you have to focus. If your mind's not in it, something's going to happen. You're going to get swept. You're going to get submitted, whatever it is. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, it almost forces you to zone in. For that hour and a half when you're in class, nothing else matters. And it was a nice distraction from it. Like I could just focus on the task at hand. Nothing else mattered. As I was there on the mat with my friends, my teammates, and I was just there training just like everybody else.
So you got invited to start trying jiu-jitsu when you were doing judo. What got you started in judo?
Same thing. At the time, jiu-jitsu wasn't as popular, so I I knew there was a judo school in the city on like the north side, and it was jiu-jitsu in Chicago. There was maybe a couple gyms at the time, so there wasn't many options. So judo was like obviously pretty close. So I started with that, and then once I met a couple guys that were doing jiu-jitsu, I was like, oh, this place is not too far from here, from where I was, and I went in, tried a class, and never looked back.
Cool. What year was that when you started?
Oh man, let me think about that one. It was either 2003, 2004, or something like that. It was I want to say it was 2004.
Okay. Just you think it was 2004?
Yeah, it was almost it was like 6 months to a year after Carlson Gracie Sr. died. I started at Carlson's gym, and it was like less than a year after he passed away. So that's all I remember.
Yeah.
And days are all kind of blurring together now.
So tell me what you do off of the mat besides write articles about jiu-jitsu and strength and conditioning.
Me personally, I still, I train, I teach classes, I write a lot. I'm in the process of finishing up my Master's of Science, and then I work one-on-one with some people. I do a lot of mobility and recovery work for, any sport, for basketball, for baseball, just people, general fitness training, and, hang out with my kids. I have newborn twins that are 10 months now. So
wow, congratulations.
Thanks.
Twins.
Yeah, one of each, one boy, one girl.
That's awesome. You're going to have them rolling around before too long, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I bring them to the gym and they watch, and it is kind of funny. When they play, it looks like they're doing little jiu-jitsu moves.
That's cool. I'm sure they're gonna grow up and train with each other and
yeah.
I mean, that's
good joint partners.
Yeah, you get two siblings that are the same age. You can't go wrong doing that. Yeah. I'm sure the little girl will be tough as nails compared to all her classmates. And
yeah, she's gonna be tough.
That's cool. Well, congratulations on twins. That's really amazing.
Thank you.
So you're really into strength and conditioning. Is that what you studied in school?
Yeah, I did exercise science. At the time, I was playing football, so I always had a performance, mindset. Like, how is this going to affect me on the field, or how is this going to affect, other players? So I was always looking at it from that perspective. Like, how do you apply it? A lot of strength and conditioning information never gets applied. So people read it and they see, this method's great, that method's great, but it's never applied. And how does a system or how does a method of training affect performance, right? So I was able to see, like, as I was going along, stuff I was learning, or, stuff we would do, program design, or, concepts, whatever, how that would actually play out in, real life situation, like in a sport, like football or whatever.
And how could you help me out here a little bit about strength and conditioning geared towards jiu-jitsu? What do you recommend for that?
So there's a few things to factor in. One, it's how long you've been training for. So if you just started training, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is enough at first, and a lot of people don't see that side of it. When you're training, you're rolling, you're doing technique, it's just such a stress on your body when you first start that it should be enough for most people. Your body doesn't really know the difference between pushing a weight, pushing, a sled, or pushing a person. So, for example, when you're in side control and you're trying to frame away with someone on top of you, that's technically resistance. Like, the person on top of you is resisting your force. So to pack on, strength and conditioning work on top of that when you just start sometimes isn't the smartest idea. Now, down the road, no doubt about it, adding it in is going to help you extend your career, build, healthy joints, stuff like that. But at first, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is plenty. I'm sure you know what it's like. Your first few days when you start, your neck hurts, your back hurts, everything. You feel like you got hit by a truck, and that feeling is the same as if you just started lifting weights. So I would recommend for someone new, just start there. And then down the road, depending who you are, you always have to look at what your end goal is. Are you a competitor? Do you like to do this for fun? How much time do you have? How old you are? What stresses do you have in your life? And then you reverse engineer it from there. Because ultimately, your goal is to stay on the mat. So nothing should replace jiu-jitsu training. Your strength and conditioning work should just fill in the gaps in between. So if you have an extra day, you can devote to strength conditioning. We'll figure out a way to make 1 day work. You have 2 days, you can make 2 days work. But it shouldn't be, you shouldn't put it in your hand where you have okay, I should do jiu-jitsu today or I should strength and conditioning today. Your goal is not to be the best in the weight room. Your goal is to be the best at jiu-jitsu. So we can reverse it,
When is a time that a person should go see like a coach, a strength and conditioning coach, versus just go and try to work out themselves?
I mean, I think everybody needs a coach, to be honest.
Yeah.
Even coaches need a coach. It's hard to be objective about yourself. And I think the biggest mistake in the strength and conditioning world is choosing programs that weren't designed for you. So you'll find a lot of programs out there that are awesome, but you have to look at who they're for and what their end goal is. So, is a program meant for a power lifter? Is a program meant for a baseball player? Is a program meant for a football player? Because football and jiu-jitsu, they don't really need the same things. And that concept, lineman doesn't need the same program as a receiver. So a strength and conditioning coach will be able to pinpoint on what you need for you and not for anybody else.
How many of I imagine you work with a lot of other athletes, not just people who do jiu-jitsu, but do you have some strength and conditioning programs that are set up for somebody who likes to play a top pressure game versus somebody who plays a bottom game? Do you do a lot of different things?
Yeah. So based on the game you play, you're going to have little different imbalances. So for example, let's say someone passes knee slide.
Yeah.
And every time they pass with the knee slide, their right leg is forward. So if you, let's say, imagine a knee slide is very similar to a lunge. You have that person do a lunge with their right leg forward. It might look pretty good. And then you have them do a lunge with their left leg forward, and it might look pretty awful.
Yeah.
And it's something as simple as that, where, okay, based on your game, I know you're strong here, but let's find out where you're weak. Because at some point, you're going to have to put that left leg forward to knee slide. And if you don't have the stability or the control there, or strength for that matter, it's not going to end well.
That's a really fun example. I'm a big proponent of being able to pass to both sides because some guys will give you so much trouble passing one way, and then you switch, and it's like they have no way to stop you from passing to their bad side. But
oh yeah.
I'm the same way. If I'm going to stand up with that knee in the front, it's hard for me to do that with my left leg. I pass differently to my left. If I did some exercises off the mat, you think I could clean that up a little bit and get more stability?
Yeah, if you did like a rear foot elevated split squat, where you put your back foot up on a bench or plyo box, something, and try it with the good leg first. So let's say you always pass with your right leg forward. So you put your left leg elevated behind you, your right leg forward, and you would drop down like a squat or a lunge. And you'll notice like that side might be pretty good, and then you switch to the other side, and you might have an awful time. So what you can do is you can start, after you kind of see where you're at, maybe both sides are great, but more than likely you're going to have one side better than the other. So once you figure out that, you start with the bad side, so you start with your left leg, and you do as many reps as you can that you can control, and you do half that number on the good side. So it's a way to, I don't want to say like get you back to even, but it gets you pretty close to balance.
Help you balance yourself out.
Single leg work is very important, especially for a sport like jiu-jitsu. We're going to end up on one leg, whether someone's trying to single leg you or someone's trying to. Same example, actually. You're in a knee slide, and now someone stands up with a single leg. Well, if you don't have the balance on the left leg or the control, you're going to get taken down pretty easily because your right leg is your strong side.
Yeah, I'm going to have to try that. I'm going to need to work on that. When I'm thinking about like strength and conditioning, I kind of always just lump them together as like a lot of off the mat training and things you could do. But let's talk about strength conditioning specifically. What do you recommend for just a general Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu athlete?
First, work the opposite. So you always want to work what Jiu-Jitsu doesn't. So let's say you're a guard player, or actually anybody in Jiu-Jitsu, they have a tendency to have really strong quads. A lot of them have really flexible backs, but very weak backs and glutes. So general exercises for that, like squats, some hinges, kettlebell swings, stuff like that is great. Pull-ups, chin-ups, any kind of pulling movement, both horizontal and vertical. So you can do, like, let's say a dumbbell row would be an example, and pull-up. And then another thing jiu-jitsu guys lack is a lot of they're very heavily internally rotated, so working a lot of external rotation. So even simple, basic rehab exercises for the shoulders, like external rotations, IYTs, like in yoga, anything that does the opposite of jiu-jitsu, to be honest, is going to help balance you out. Because you get very strong in very weird positions in jiu-jitsu. There's no other way to describe it. Like, guys are just very strong in positions that you should not be strong in, and that's going to lead to being weak in other areas.
Will that help you?
You shouldn't be able to fold in half and have someone put all their weight on top of you and be able to hang out there. When guys go inverted, that's not that's not a normal position to have strength. Like a tornado guard or something, where you can like flip someone with your hamstring. Like, that is not a normal strength for people to have, but jiu-jitsu guys are very strong there. So there's going to be some sort of weakness associated with that.
So you really recommend not like making your strengths stronger, but balancing it out and finding the weak part of that muscle group or the opposite of that and working on that.
Yeah, everybody has a tendency to work what they're good at. You go into the gym and you have this huge deadlift, let's say, but your squat in comparison isn't very good, or let's say you can bench press a lot, but you can barely do any pull-ups. But people will continue to do the bench press. Well, that's not what you need. You don't need to get better at bench pressing. You need to get better at pulling. So you want to almost err to the side of your weak points. And it's hard for people to do it. It's not fun to go to the gym and do something you're not good at. It's just like jiu-jitsu. If you just keep doing the stuff you're good at, you're not going to get better at anything else. Sometimes it's the exercises you like the least are the ones you need the most.
So you're looking for, like, in comparison to your weightlifting buddy, you could way out bench him. So maybe, he does like 90 more pull-ups than you do or whatever. So maybe I should start. How do you compare? How do you figure out what you're weak at versus what you're just...
Yeah, that's a good question. I recommend, I did write an article about this a while ago, but I do recommend everybody should have some sort of self-assessment. And I think that is really important. It's just a way for you to get in tune with your body. So you could do whatever assessment you really want. There's a bunch of them out there, like a general strength test or whatever it is. But give yourself an assessment. Like, pick a day, every 12 weeks or whatever, and test your strength. Test your strength in bench, squat, deadlift, pull-ups, push-ups. You could do a good example for jiu-jitsu guys is because you want to have strength and you also want to have muscular endurance. So you could do, let's say, a 2-rep or 1-rep backs in the bench, and then you could also see how many push-ups you can do with good form in a row. So then you're going to get your strength element, you're going to get your muscular endurance element. You can see, okay, man, I can bench press like 2.5 times my body weight, but I die at 10 push-ups. So then you can see it in balance. Okay, I'm very strong here, but I should be able to do more than 10 push-ups,
Yeah.
So give yourself a self-assessment, and it'll show you. It'll show you where you're at, and then you can look at it again in 12 weeks, 16 weeks, whatever it is, and say, okay, I've made progress here, or I haven't. It's pretty black and white. So
there's the whole concept of getting your body more balanced. You go to jiu-jitsu every day and you work these same muscle groups. You work a lot of muscle groups, but like you find yourself in the same positions that you like and you're going to do. those muscles get stronger. They get more work done to them, and then you're leaving some out just by the nature of what you're doing. So by going into the gym and working the opposites, you're not necessarily. I would imagine. I'm just trying to think of it here. Is I'm not going to go in and roll a lot better the next day, but maybe it'll help me stay on the mat for more years. Is that what the goal with this is?
Yeah. So every muscle in your body, it has a job, right? It has to do something. It has a purpose. And when it doesn't work, or it doesn't fire, or doesn't want to contract the way it should, other things are going to work really hard to do that job. So by having a well-balanced muscular system, you're just going to be more efficient. It's like driving your car with 4 tires that are just slightly deflated. You could do it, but your engine is going to work really hard. But when your tires are filled, and they're at the optimal level, the car drives more efficiently. It's the same thing with your body. Can you do a squat without using all the proper muscles to do it? Absolutely. Athletes are really good compensators, but you're working really hard to do that squat. So what you'll notice is when you start to balance your body, you're going to be more efficient. Now that could term to be like maybe you can feel a little stronger, or your conditioning feels a little better. You might not necessarily have got it better, in better shape or stronger. You're just more efficient.
Okay. With a more balanced body, are you less injury prone, you think?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, combat sports are dangerous, for lack of a better term. Like injuries do happen.
Yeah.
Any kind of contact sport it happens. What you want to minimize is the non-contact injuries. So the guy that gets hurt warming up. I've seen that happen a few times. The guy that gets hurt, maybe he just rolled jiu-jitsu, felt great, and then he went to walk his dog and he pulled his back. Stuff like that. I think those are all wear and tear, over time. Things happen. You can sprain your ankle passing someone's guard. Your foot gets caught in someone's gi. You have to do your best to minimize your risks.
Yeah.
So having a well-balanced muscular system is just taking you closer to that goal. I never want to say zero. Obviously anything can happen. It just puts the odds in your favor.
Yeah, sounds like a good plan, and I'm I'll be figuring out how I can shore up my weaknesses physically wise, and hopefully I get injured more off the mat than I do on the mat anyway. I'm always doing something stupid. So
yeah, housework and stuff does it sometimes.
So let's switch over to a little bit of cardio stuff. What do you just kind of jump in about cardio for BJJ?
I think cardio for BJJ needs to mimic a match as closely as possible. So if you have, let's say you're getting ready for a tournament, or you train for fun, but you want to be able to roll more than a few rounds without gassing out. Your cardio has to match as close as you can the same feeling you would get during a match. So I like to look at the time of the match. So let's say you're a white belt, your average time is 5 minutes. Your brown belt, you're going to be doing about 8 minutes. So your conditioning bout, so to speak, should be 5 minutes or 8 minutes, so they match it. And then within that block of time, you try to mimic as many jiu-jitsu movements as you can. So, let's say you have a 5 minute, let's go 6 just to call it easy. You do 30 seconds hip escapes, 30-second triangles, 30-second sprawls, 30-second shooting double legs, etc., until you reach your time. So you're going to try to mimic what it feels like to roll without rolling. Sled work and all that stuff is great. It's general, general physical preparedness. It's general conditioning, and it's great. But you still step on the mat, and you'll still gas out. People come in, they go to the gym a lot. They say they run a lot, whatever it is. And they can't even make it through warm-ups. I'm sure you've seen it too.
Absolutely.
Warm-ups kill the people on their first day, even though people think they're in shape. It's because it's not specific. They're very good at running, or they're very good at whatever conditioning exercise they were doing. I think Maxwell talked about that too, about how it's important to have, it's like specific muscular endurance. as opposed to thinking of it as cardio. So for jiu-jitsu, you want to have as much muscular endurance as you can in those specific jiu-jitsu positions.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think, we had Steve Maxwell on. He said something like, if you're going to run, you're going to get better at running. It's not going to really help you do anything else other than run better. And same thing.
Yeah.
If you want to do like 1,000,000 push-ups, that'll help you to get better at doing push-ups. But other than that, that's so working out, trying to work on your cardio on the mat as much as you possibly can.
And for jiu-jitsu, if you have if you have the opportunity to have a partner and someone to drill with, you could set a timer for, let's say 40 seconds, and you try to do as many Toriano passes as you can in 40 seconds, and then you try to do as many arm bars from the mountain in 40 seconds. You make it into a jiu-jitsu match without the resistance.
This type of drilling, is it going to help you more just for the cardio and endurance-wise, or is it maybe a little bit of helping you with the technique?
Yeah, it'll mostly help you with the cardio endurance. One thing it might help you with technique-wise is timing. It might help you a little bit with your timing of your techniques, or especially if you do, let's say you do the Toriano pass and you pass and you have your partner maybe defend one side, like just put his arms up, not enough to really cause a problem, but enough to let you know he's there, and then you jump to the other side. So it could help with timing in that aspect. But as far as like the technical grips and the technical aspect of the move, I don't think it'll help too much.
Okay.
Now you need this, basic technical drilling or, training for.
So these are great ways to train and increase your endurance on the mat. But if the problem with I need to go and have somebody to do this with, and a lot of times when I'm working out, like it's just at an inconvenient time for anybody else to go train. So if I'm just going to go to the gym, and what would be a good way I could work on my endurance at the gym by myself?
Okay, so you can get very close to jiu-jitsu positions with basic body weight or kettlebell. So you could do Turkish get-ups are a good example. It's very similar to the jiu-jitsu get-up or tactical get-up. You could do, let's say, 40 seconds of jiu-jitsu get-ups, some swings. Burpees are very close to a sprawl. Let me think. You could take a medicine ball.
Yeah.
Type of, take medicine ball, throw it. Any type of, throws overhead, squat and throw, stuff like that, just to get your elevated heart rate. The medicine ball slams, the medicine ball throws. Again, it's not going to mimic jiu-jitsu entirely, but it's going to at least get your heart rate up and get you moving when you can't get to the gym. Especially a lot of people work, they don't have the opportunity to always go to jiu-jitsu class. Maybe they can sneak in a quick workout on their lunch break or something like that. So throwing in some, high rep swings or Turkish get-ups for time, things like that will at least keep you in shape so you can get to the gym. Yeah.
And do you recommend like I do some I do one exercise for the 5 minutes, or do I do one exercise and kind of build a little circuit where I'm doing from one to the other for about 5 minutes?
You can mix and match. I've done stuff with the guys where I have them do like 5 or 6 minutes of Turkish get-ups, and then I'll have them do, let's say they can't get to the gym, like this is their workout they'll do when they're at they can't come to the jiu-jitsu gym. They'll do 5 minutes of Turkish get-ups, then they'll do 5 minutes of like a swing squat type of exercise. So they'll swing, they'll catch it, they'll squat, they'll swing, they'll catch it, they'll squat. So you're going to work, obviously you're squatting, and then every time you have to catch the kettlebell, your grips, things like that. And then I've also had people do circuits, so 30 seconds of, let's say 10 exercises each, and then you rest 2 to 3 minutes at the end, and then repeat. Either one works.
Yeah.
I think you could play around with it. Say you have a day where you're not feeling it. You don't feel like going to that deep zone with the cardio. Then a 5-minute Turkish get-up workout is perfect. It gets your heart rate up. It gets you moving a little bit. And it's not enough to really, it's not going to put you in that high impact or high intensity zone. It's enough just to get you through it. And the days you feel great, you're like, I just want to get some energy out. Then you could burn through a circuit.
Do you have any tips for motivation? Like, to me, it's fun to go to jiu-jitsu, and then when I'm there, even if I'm a little undermotivated, once I start rolling, it's just so much fun. The motivation just shows up to roll hard and have a good time. But like, if you're gonna go and try to work on some off the mat training, and you're really just kind of just doing it to help yourself at jiu-jitsu, what would be? Do you have any motivation to kind of get through that or to help yourself?
Yeah, for me, I've always been a big picture guy. So when I first started jiu-jitsu, I would always think, how is this going to affect me?
Yeah.
Down the road, like it's very hard when you start. Like I remember when I first started, you would see a blue belt and nothing. It was like they were just so rare too. There was like that just seems so far away. I was like, oh man, hopefully one day I can be a blue belt or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I think thinking down the road. So most people do jiu-jitsu as a recreation. Even if they do compete, they're not they're not high level. It's not what they're doing for a living. They compete because it's fun or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So, jiu-jitsu is something that you can do for a long time if you take the necessary steps now to prepare you for that. So I always thought, like, obviously I want to be a black belt someday, and I want to one day compete as a black belt. So I'd always think, like, okay, I need to take care of myself now. So it would always pop in my head when I did like doing some strength work or my mobility work or something, and be like, no, if I don't do this, like, if I get hurt, I can't train, or I would always think down the road. So it's hard when you start. Everyone wants to get good right away. Everyone wants to come in the gym and they want to tap everybody within 6 weeks or whatever it is, and it's not going to happen. So thinking that just drove me, thinking like, okay, I'm going to go to the gym and I'm going to leave better than I was when I came in. And then, another part of it, and not a lot of people, had the hardship and stuff I went through, and people might have something, but deep down I always had in my head nothing was as hard as was what I went through.
Yeah.
And that's always driving me, and this thinking down the road and thinking all that, ultimately, like, no matter how painful and how tired I was or how beat up my body was, I would always, like, in the back of my head have that where nothing was as hard as that. Like, going to jiu-jitsu or going to the gym, that's not hard. Like, dealing with death or dealing with adversity, that's difficult. Going to jiu-jitsu and going to the gym isn't.
Yeah, even losing a match that you really wanted to win, it really doesn't matter. I mean, it's really nothing compared to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that happen off the mat that could easily eclipse what's happening on the mat. But like you mentioned earlier, you step on the mat and you kind of let things go, and you just got to train and enjoy the time on the mat and concentrate on that. It's a good distraction as well. So, how about for weight loss? A lot of guys come in and gals they use jiu-jitsu as a great way to get back in shape. You have any tips or advice for jiu-jitsu for weight loss?
Yeah, that's another tricky one, because jiu-jitsu is a performance sport, so you have to, your nutrition and your calories have to match your performance. So a lot of times when jiu-jitsu guys cut weight or girls cut weight, they drastically restrict something, calories, fluid, maybe a macronutrient, and they just tank. It's a lot different than bodybuilding or any of the like physique sports. Not that they're not performing, but it's different. So you have to eat enough where you can still perform, but not enough to have you gain weight. Does that make sense? So
yeah.
There is a little, playing around that takes some time. But as far as drastically cutting a group or restricting water, I'm not a big fan of that. I'm a big fan of slow, gradually, over time, restricting either, maybe slowly cutting back on your calories so you find that point where you're still eating enough to perform, but not eating enough, too much where you're gaining weight. If you could lose weight eating, let's say, 2,000 calories, you're good. But if you start to drop down to like 1,500, 1,400, and you stop losing weight, you have nowhere to go. So you want to eat as much as you can while still dropping weight.
So it sounds like that's one thing that I think that a lot of people that come in and start training and wanted to do is lose weight, but you went right away to what they're doing with their diet. It's not just, I mean, if your diet's so messed up and you don't change that at all, and you go in there and you train hard, you sweat, and you do all this exercising, and you go home and you eat terrible food and a bunch of it, it's really hard to lose any weight, it seems like.
Yeah, and you're gonna like, especially if you've been if you haven't been active and you just started back up and you're doing jiu-jitsu, you're gonna burn more calories than you were before. So you might experience a little bit of a weight loss just from that. You know, jiu-jitsu, especially at the beginning, you are very efficient. So for someone just starting to do a hip escape, it's going to take them a lot more work than someone who's been training for a while.
Yeah.
So they're working very hard to do something that we would think is easy now, you know. So you're going to get a little bit of weight reduction just from that, and some people will feel like they're getting a little bit stronger, or I hear like their body's changing a lot. But ultimately, like, your nutrition is going to have to change, you know, especially as you get older, or if you start to think about competing. You know, performance and nutrition are pretty closely tied.
Yeah, so maybe just as a little experiment, could I try eating healthy for like a full week and see how it affects me on the mat? Would that make it? Would I be able to tell a difference, you think? Would I move better?
Yeah, you know, some people feel it right away. You know, especially if you're really bloated or you're run down. Like, you're gonna feel different, you know, right away. Other people, they're like, I don't feel any different, and then a couple weeks down the road, it's like, oh man, I feel great. You know. The one thing nutrition will do, regardless of a number on the scale, is it's going to feel your body, and it's going to also help you repair. So going back to like the longevity aspect of jiu-jitsu, if you can't recover from a previous training session, then you're still going to be broken down for your next session. The next session is not going to be as productive as your previous session. So the inflammation reduction and the overall healing benefit of a good diet should be enough, you know, regardless of what the scale says. You know, maybe some people won't lose weight right away, or they won't gain muscle right away. You're still going to get some of the anti-inflammatory benefits, and you're still going to get the performance benefit. And you might just notice, I feel less achy, or I feel less bloated, you know, something like that, as opposed to looking at the scale and seeing a dramatic drop.
You mentioned about like not being healthy for your next workout. How much training is too much? How do you know when you hit that barrier?
So you can look at mood. Mood's a good one. Sometimes you just feel crappy. You know, you feel down, depressed for no reason. Everything's going great. You get winded really easily. I know it's not the most scientific thing in the world, but you'll feel it those days. Your legs just feel really heavy, and you're like going up the stairs or something at work, and you're just like almost out of breath. You can roll 20 minutes of jiu-jitsu straight, and then you go up the stairs, and you just feel gassed. Those are pretty good signs, you know, to cut back. Or your forearms, you just feel like that lactic acid feeling. You know, some people use heart rate. They'll look for fluctuations in their heart rate. Like, you'll use HRV, heart rate variability. You know, I've played around with that. I think that's a great tool. Not everybody has it, but if you have some signs, again, going back to that assessment piece, you can do a daily assessment of yourself. So if you have, let's say there's a movement you're proficient at, it could be. It should be something like single-sided, so let's say like a Turkish get-up, or maybe a lunge, or something. So if you use a lunge, you might want to have an upper body movement too, let's say like a light shoulder press each side or something. Some sort of metric where you can do, let's say, 1 or 2 Turkish get-ups each side, and you're like, man, these feel really hard today. You know, so, and then you have it, okay, yesterday these felt really easy, or when I do this Turkish get-up on my right side, my elbow hurts, or when I try to get up on my left side, my neck hurts, or I feel like I can't extend my arm. Those are all pretty good indicators that either you're not recovered from the previous session, or you know, you're a little bit more beat up than you thought.
Now, you did kind of allude to earlier somebody who's just coming, I guess, like off the couch and stepping in the gym. and how it's different for them versus somebody who's been a little bit more athletic. So I think that's a very common place. That's where I was. I getting out of college time for me, and I really hadn't done any sports for a few years, and I wanted to do jiu-jitsu. So I transitioned from doing nothing to doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. How could somebody make? I mean, this is a common, I think, transition, especially as people. They go to work and you get kind of bored with that, and you want something physical in your life, and you try to make that transition from work, family, or work, and anything else that might be taking your time, and then just like now you want to do a physical activity. How could you make that a little bit more smooth?
Okay, so first is you have to throw out the window everything you did before. So you always hear, "Oh, I used to be able to lift this, or I used to be able to do this, or I used to be able to run this far." But you're not that person anymore, And I think that actually sets the tone. So when people walk in and they'll try a class or they'll roll a few rounds, like, "Oh man, I used to be able to run 10 miles and it didn't even bother me." You have to throw that out the window. You're basically starting. You're that high school kid that's never lifted before freshman year. You're starting from square one. Whatever you did in the past is in the past. You're not that same person anymore. So you have to accept the fact you're going to start over.
Yeah.
You have to accept the fact that even if you were lifting weights or doing something, yoga, whatever it is, you were doing that. You weren't doing jiu-jitsu. And if you come in with that mindset first, it'll help you a lot. You can't think about what you used to do. You have to think about now. So when you first walk in, you have to expect it to be difficult. There's no other way around it. It's very difficult. It's probably one of the most difficult sports around. We have some NFL football players from our local team that come in, and same thing, they struggle just like everybody else when they first start. Now, is their learning curve faster? Yes. But they also have the same struggles as everybody else. And if they have struggles like that, everybody's going to,
Yeah.
Like they're way better athletes than a lot of us, and they still experience that. So you have to start with that mindset. Like, it's going to be hard, but it's not going to be this hard forever.
Yeah. I think that's a great way to help yourself mentally, because if you go in there thinking you're going to be that same guy you were 5-10 years ago, and you'll go home disappointed, and you'll feel like that guy's gone and he's not coming back, and this isn't for you. Go in there and think that, hey, I haven't taken care of myself for a while. I'm not going to be that guy today, and won't be that guy tomorrow either. But I could get towards where I was, and I'll be learning jiu-jitsu at the same time. I think it's a good help mentally, especially in the first few months of training.
Yeah, and then it comes down to next is your ego. You have to let it go. You can't be afraid to tap. You can't be afraid to say, "Hey, I need to sit something out because this doesn't feel right, or I'm exhausted." When you first start, usually the progression is you're dead after warm-ups. And this is kind of what I've seen over the years. The new guy, he makes it through warm-ups barely, right? And then maybe a week down the road, he's like, "Oh man, I could do the warm-ups." And then during, drilling, he starts to die. And then they'll start to get past drilling, and then they'll roll. But then when they roll, they want to do every round. So you have to almost have little mini progressions at each stage. So when you start rolling, maybe you roll one round, and then you sit the next one out. And you can't be too proud to tell your instructor, "Hey, I need to sit."
Yeah.
It's better to do that and come back tomorrow than it is to push yourself past that breaking point, and then we don't see you for 6 months.
Yeah, exactly. And if you're going to roll 3 rounds, it's probably better to roll them with a blank round in between than if you're going to roll just 3 rounds back to back and then sit down while everybody does another 3. I think you'd be better off spacing them apart a little bit to where you could actually think and concentrate, maybe.
People underestimate how hard rolling is. From you watch it, and I think it looks crazy still, but I know people will watch it and they'll jump in and they'll leave, and the first thing they'll say is like, "Oh, I didn't expect it to be that hard." And seeing it and doing it are very different. So you have to accept that fact. It's probably the hardest thing you're going to do, and you can't jump in there and spar 10 rounds your first day. You almost have to have little mini goals, and that's kind of what I've been telling people is you have to have this little mini goals each time. Like maybe it's I could get past the warm-ups today, or I was able to move my hips a little bit better on a armbar than I was last week, or I could bridge from the mount. Last week I couldn't even get my hips up. Just have little mini goals for you, not anybody else. Not everybody's different. The person next to you, just because they started at the same time, doesn't mean you're going to be as good as them. You're not them. You're you. So you can't compare yourself to other students. You have to have your own personal path that is meant for you, not anybody else.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I couldn't agree with you more on that. As people train in jiu-jitsu, they're going to have a lot of different experiences, a lot of different feelings as they go through this journey. They may have a real positive experience about like, hey, I learned this technique, it went really well, or I won a tournament and it was a great thing for me. They may have negative experiences. They may have some frustration with, training partners doing a lot better than they were at that time, or they may go and do poorly at a tournament. How could people use these different experiences and gain from both of them?
That's a good question. So one of the things I tell the parents for the kids, and it holds true for the adults, is in jiu-jitsu, you're not going to win every day, right? And thinking that way isn't good either, but you're going to have days, just bad days, right? Let's think of it that way. You're going to have bad days. You're going to have tournaments that you lose. You're going to have those days you come in, and some guy that you used to be able to sweep 20 times, now all of a sudden is on your back choking you. But what jiu-jitsu does is it teaches you how to deal with that. So I think one of the big benefits of jiu-jitsu that people miss is when you leave after having that bad day, you want to come back again. And that'll teach you more about anything. And that truly is, I think, the beauty of it. It's letting that go, and then you start over. Every day you walk in, it's a new day to practice, And I've always had a mindset of a few things I wanted to work on when I would train. So, a lot of people come into class with that mindset that they want to win, so to speak, right? You're new. There's a guy that just started at the same time as you, and you wanna tap him out or something, and he didn't do it, and then you leave and you're mad and you don't want to come back, Have something in your mind that you want to accomplish. So whether it's, let's say you learned an arm drag on Monday, then you come to class on Wednesday, have that in your head like, okay, I'm just going to try to arm drag everybody. So now it's not about, winning, losing. It's like, did I try to do what I wanted to do?
Yeah.
I have a guard pass I want to work. Changing your mindset from winning and losing, yeah, it's tough. You have bad tournaments, you have this, and ultimately, like, you have to think, what am I in this for? Am I in this for to be the best at jiu-jitsu, like to be a world champion? If you're a competitor and high-level competitor, that could be. But like I said, for most people, it's not. Most people, jiu-jitsu is a recreation. It's something that's going to teach them more about themselves than people probably even know until years down the road. And that piece where you leave after having like the worst day, and then you're like, I don't know why, but I want to go back. That to me is what you have to look for. You have to keep that in your mind. Like every day you get a new chance to get better.
Yeah, I think that does that. Having a bad day, going home, and then coming back again, that like builds up a resilience in you mentally, and it's good off the mat as well. Like I'm a resilient person. Even if times get tough, I'm going to get through this. I do it all the time at jiu-jitsu. It's nice that it draws us back because it's fun, and that's where our friends are hanging out anyway. But I think it does build some really good character traits in there as well.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's, especially now, everybody's so stressed. We live very stressful lives. You see people in line at the grocery store getting mad because the line's long, That, like, they need, like, an outlet. They need jiu-jitsu or something,
Yeah.
And I think when you start doing jiu-jitsu, you start seeing more of that stuff. That stuff shouldn't bother you. You know what I mean? Like little stuff like that.
Yeah. You just let it go.
Having that, like you said, that resilience, like, no, this isn't bad. Like, yeah, there's bad traffic or whatever, but it's cool, you know? Like, it's good. You get another day, you know what I mean? What's the worst that happens? I'm sitting in traffic, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. That stress could be very unhealthy for you, and if you could just, like, let it roll off your shoulders and just kind of be there and wait in line or wait in traffic and listen to a podcast or whatever.
Train, you know?
Yeah. So what are your goals with your writing? I want to know a little bit more about this.
Yeah, so ultimately I want to put together a training guide, book kind of thing for specifically for jiu-jitsu. I know there's a lot more people getting into jiu-jitsu and a lot more people taking it seriously, and people are just kind of searching for what they think is right. You know, there really isn't a general consensus on how to train for this stuff. You know, you could find tons of programs for football players. You know, football has been around forever. You can find baseball programs, you know, but if you look for like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu specific strength and conditioning programs, you'll find a few here and there, but they're not as frequent and they're not as many. They're not, and also they're not meant for the average person, right? A lot of them are meant for either the high level competitor, you know, that's going to the Worlds or something like that, and that's not most people that do jiu-jitsu. You know, most people that do jiu-jitsu are working. You know, they have family or whatever. They're in school, something like that. You know, they're not 100% dedicated to jiu-jitsu. Those are the group of people that I think are getting, I don't want to say hurt, but they're like abusing themselves. You know, you'll see tournaments and there's guys like, you know, in the beginner divisions, you know, cutting weight and doing all this stuff, just starving themselves, dehydrating themselves. You know, honestly, for what? You know, like, should you be doing that at that stage? Absolutely not. You know, and I think there needs to be some sort of, I don't want to say like end-all be-all, but some sort of direction for these guys that, hey, this is where I'm at in my jiu-jitsu journey, this is how I should be training. This is where I'm at, this is how I should be training, you know, and kind of down the lines, like a reference, like, okay, I have a tournament coming up in 6 weeks, I'm blue belt, that's 30 plus, how should I be getting ready for this tournament, you know?
Yeah.
I'm a black belt getting ready for the Worlds, how do I get ready? You know, it needs to be specific for the group and for the population, for the goal, you know?
It seems like, and we both started jiu-jitsu around the same time. Back when we started, people doing jiu-jitsu were just like really good at jiu-jitsu. And then people nowadays seem like people doing jiu-jitsu are athletic and really good at doing jiu-jitsu. So like we're getting there. But if we had like the level, like the NFL style, like of training and science behind it, there's a lot of growth to be had still in the way we're doing things, I think. But it's...
Oh, yeah. One of the things that's hard to grasp is we know so much about training the human body now. You know, there's been tons of science, tons of research done. But we're also having more injuries than ever before. And not just in jiu-jitsu, you know, in any sport. It's the application. So people aren't taking this stuff and applying it, or they're either letting it go out the window, you know. And now, like you said, for jiu-jitsu, it's like people are athletes. Even if you're training for, you know, for like a local tournament, they're doing strength and conditioning. They're getting their meals ready instead of like, hey, you want to do a tournament on Saturday? Cool, you know, and you show up and like maybe there's a couple blue belts and a purple belt if you were lucky, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember tournaments when brown, it was like purple, brown, and black belts. I think we're all in the same divisions, you know, and then everybody went out and ate a bunch of wings or something after, you know. Now it's like it's a very different world, and the problem with jiu-jitsu is there's no season, so to speak. So in football, you have off-season, in-season, pre-season, and they divide the training up based on the time of year. You know, for jiu-jitsu, there really isn't a set end and start. You know, some people will say the end of it's like, let's say, Gi Worlds or something, you know, but then you might have a tournament pop up. So one of the concepts that I want people to understand is a local tournament could be your world, right? So if you're just starting out, or you're, you know, a local guy that wants to compete, and you do, let's say, a local U.S. Grappling Naga, something like that, that is your main event. So anything that leads up to that, any little small tournament that you may do or whatever, it's just practice for that big one. So you have to almost create yourself a season. And that's kind of what I'm envisioning with this book, is how to prioritize your training year, so to speak, based on your belt, like we were talking about, your age, your goals, and then how much time do you have before your main event.
That's good. And speaking of doing a tournament, especially like a local tournament, what advice would you have for somebody doing their first tournament?
So first tournament, I would, number one, don't worry about weight. It's always the first question people ask me is, should I cut weight, or I'm in between weights or whatever. For your first tournament, just do it. You know, you can have a million different opinions, and you'll get more worried about cutting weight, making weight, than you are about the tournament. You know, by the time some of these guys get on the mat, they're so burnt out from thinking about their weight or their conditioning or whatever it is that they're flat when they enter the mat. One is just do whatever weight you're at.
Yeah.
And then two is use it as a learning tool. So what tournaments do is they show you what you're weak at. So going back to what we were talking about with strength and conditioning, tournaments are very good at showing you what you need to work on. Because in the gym, you always have a tendency to work your strengths. You know, no one wants to quote-unquote lose. You don't want to get mounted. No one wants to get their back taken. But when that happens, you have to know how to react. So tournaments, it's real. You know, it's going to show you where you're weak at. Like if you can't defend someone's guard pass to the right, you're going to find out. You know, so a tournament is a very eye-opening experience. And then, again, the most common complaint I get from people that do tournaments is, oh man, why was that so much harder? You know, than a roll at the gym. Like it's exhausting. Like anybody that's ever competed will tell you, like it is exhausting. So if nothing else, that first tournament will open your eyes to what you're going to expect when you compete again.
Yeah, just do it, get it out of the way. And then
have fun with it. Like, you know, take it for what it is. You know, especially at the beginning tournaments, you can get, you know, like white belts that are new on their journey, and you guys are both new. Then you can get that white belt that's waiting for his blue, and it could be a long day for you, you know?
Yeah.
But you just have to do it, you know, and it's a good test. You know, people ask me, should I wait 6 months? Should I wait whatever? And, you know, it's different. Some people like to get out there right away. Some people want to wait till they feel more comfortable. You know, I don't think there's a right or wrong. I do think if you're really in jiu-jitsu, and even if you don't ever want to compete seriously, like doing one is an eye-opening experience. Yeah,
and then it truly is. You get the feeling that you're out there competing. It's different than, it's the same, but it is different than when you're just rolling in class. You get different stresses, and you just. But when you go back and look at it, it's the same thing. You're doing the same thing that you do in class. It's really a very interesting experience. Even if you just do it one time, it's I recommend it. It's not required, obviously, but it's pretty cool if you're interested in competing, to go out there and do it. What were you like as a blue belt?
That's a great question. And as a blue belt, I was. That's a good one. So I'll preface this with some words from my instructor. So before I started training, you know, with Mark and New Breed, I never had a good concept of what a belt meant, to be honest. Like, I know, like, this guy's a blue belt, he's good. This guy's a purple belt, he's probably better, you know? So when talking with Mark really opened my eyes. So in his eyes, a blue belt, you know how to go from A to B, but you might not be able to go back to A, and maybe you can't get to C. So for me, at blue belt, I was pretty much like, I would try one move, and if I didn't get it, I'd be like, oh man, what do I do now? You know?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of blue belts are in there. You know, it's a fun belt because you know enough to like catch other people. Like you can catch purple belts. You can like, you know, you might get a sweep on like whatever, another upper belt guy. you're like, oh man, I flipped that guy. But then if you get your butt kicked, you're also like, oh, I'm just a blue belt. It's all right, you know? So in that aspect, it's kind of fun. Like, you know enough. But for me, I had a really hard time stringing stuff together. And then when, Mark started explaining that to me, like, you have to try to string attacks together, it made more sense. So by blue belt, I was like trying to figure out how to tie my game together.
Cool.
And I would always, my game's pretty similar. Like, I do more now. I know more. But I don't think my game changed as much. I think my timing and my stringing together of attacks or trying to pass someone's guard with like 3 or 4 passes instead of like trying to take an over-under and it doesn't work. And then I'm like back in the dude's guard instead of switching to like a single under or something.
Yeah, it's interesting to see the development. And I think I was a very similar blue belt that you were. You just have a couple of moves and then you're not really able to string anything together or anticipate what's going to happen next or what your opponent how they might react. What would be a good goal for a student? Let's say like the student coming off the couch or coming off of a bit of a break from activity, coming into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. What would be a good goal for them their first year?
So I think for the first 6 months, you're kind of lost, for lack of a better term. Those first 6 months of training are very challenging. At first you know nothing, obviously, and then everybody's better than you, And then towards the end, like maybe like 3 or 4 months in, you'll be like, oh man, I think I know something. Like you might catch a sweep on someone, So I think the first 6 months are going to be your roughest. Not saying you're going to go through other phases that are as challenging, but there's nothing harder than those first 6 months. You don't know anything. People are wearing these funny uniforms. They're trying to choke you. It's like, what am I doing here? You're like everybody looks tough. You're like, oh man. So take those 6 months and just kind of enjoy the ride. Learn as much as you can. Some tips would be to, again, don't compare yourself to other students that are starting around the same time. Watch the high level guys, watch them roll. If you get a chance, train with them. I don't know, some schools have like the strictly beginner classes, some have mixed where upper belts roll with younger belts. It just depends. If you have the opportunity, like there's nothing better than rolling with an upper belt that can flow with you and kind of expose stuff for you. And after those 6 months, you'll start to see like maybe another new guy starts, and all of a sudden you're kind of helping him. You're like, you don't know as much, but you're like, oh wait, maybe this doesn't feel right or something like that. And by the end of your first year, you should have the knowledge of someone that's been training a year. So what I mean by that is you might not be able to do everything. You might not be able to be the best at like, let's say, doing an arm bar or doing a cross choke. But you had spent a year learning something. So if someone was like, hey, how do I open the guard? You should have enough to at least explain to them or kind of show them how to open the guard. So think of it from that perspective, like learn as much as you can with that in mind. Like if someone one day was to ask you, hey, how do I do an arm bar? Or how do I, open the guard? Or how do I do a cross choke or something, like you should learn as much as you can in that first year, because a lot of people don't. They just kind of go through the motions, and then they get to like blue and purple, and they'll get caught in something really basic and simple that they shouldn't have. And it'd be like, hey, how do I get out of this arm bar or something? It's like they didn't pay. It was almost like that first year was a blur. Yeah,
they didn't actually learn anything. They just went every day and tried to just grapple with the guys.
They just showed up, right? It is class. It's school, for lack of a better term. Like you're showing up to learn something. Take everything you can. Like ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to watch, other people roll, get opinions. Everybody's got. That's the nice thing about jiu-jitsu is people will do techniques different based on their body, right? Based on their body type, their size, or abilities. All the fundamentals are the same. For an arm bar, you need certain grips and you need certain angles. But someone 6'8" is going to do it very different than me, who's 5'9" if I'm lucky. So you might find a way for your body to do that. But you're not going to be able to do that unless you learn the fundamentals and take everything you can from it.
You've got a ton of great information from you today. How could somebody find your articles, and where could they go?
Yeah, so you can find me at appliedscchicago.com, or you can find me at newbreedtrainingcenter.com. Either one of those, and there's usually links to my articles for Breaking Muscle. I've written for Open Mat Radio, On the Mat, Jiu-Jitsu Magazine coming up soon, and also I've had some stuff for the Performance Menu for Rob Wolf.
That's
so
awesome.
You can track down my articles there, and I also, we have Facebook, Twitter, all that stuff, YouTube page, all the fun stuff.
Cool. I'll put links to those on the website there. You come up with what article about every 2 weeks or so, or how?
Yeah, an article every 2 weeks for Breaking Muscle. Randomly, I get some articles written for different companies. They'll contact me. Order in Progress out of San Diego. I've done some articles for them, and I have some more stuff coming out. So you'll find some stuff popping up more frequently now.
Cool, and it always a fun read, and it's been good having you on here. I'll put your contact information, those websites on the notes for everybody to find you if they're looking for you. It's been a lot of fun having you on the show here. You're welcome back anytime. Thanks for jumping on here with me, Sam.
Great, thank you. Looking forward to it.
I want to thank one more time Sam Spiegelman for the interview. Swing by his page there on breakingmuscle.com, and they've got tons of articles written by him, or you can go by bjbrick.com and find the link to his page and keep up with him and follow him in what he's doing. He's always writing a lot of good stuff, and he's looking for ways to help you perform better on the mat. Not just it's great, technique is great, but when it comes down to it, if you're in less shape and your technique's equal, it's going to come down to some strength and conditioning.
Yeah, strength and conditioning, definitely something we all need to get better. And, what's your why? We're trying to get better. What do I need to do? Strength and conditioning. So I'm ready.
And also, if your why is to stay on the mat longer, like not just like that night, but for years, taking care of yourself off the mat is a big part of that, I think.
Yeah, and I tell you, as I've got older, that's a big thing with me, trying to stay on the mat, trying not to get hurt. Strength and conditioning has helped me. And I also, instead of rolling every day, I find I don't like to roll 2 days in a row. It bothers me a little bit. And I use that other day, do my strength and conditioning. So it allows my body a little bit of rest where I'm still working my muscles, still being flexible, strong, and pushing my heart rate up.
Yep. Gary, we've got a couple more reviews in on the podcast on iTunes, buddy.
Whoa, hey
now.
Hey,
easy now, guys.
Yeah.
We love these reviews, and we really appreciate it. It really helps the podcast get out there and get known, and it's found by more people. I think most of the people that listen to Jiu-Jitsu podcasts have found us, but we're getting some people that listen to MMA podcasts. It kind of pops up on their radar a little bit too, and maybe that'll help them find the sport of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And it's easy to watch MMA, but a lot of people don't want to try it. It's easy to come try Jiu-Jitsu. So let's get the word out to those people if we can and help get us known by them. We got an article written, or a review written by a friend in Canada. He says, since started listening to you guys, I've started breathing better on the mat and improved my rolls tenfold. So that is impressive. I don't know what you were rolling like before you listened to us, but Gary, I'll give Gary credit for onefold.
Whoa!
And then
awesome.
And then the rest was his coach. Another review here. I'm glad I discovered this podcast. It has helped me tremendously with my ninja skills. I can hide behind the curtain for 1 hour since I've started listening. Joking aside, the last one with Ricardo was great. So this review was written a little bit ago. Looking forward to part 2. So that was a 2-part interview. Keep up the good work, you guys. So that was I like your ninja skills, buddy.
Well, I mean, that's even impressive that we even got the review. I mean, the guy's a ninja. He probably hid that review from us for weeks until we finally found it.
And you know how many stars he threw at us with that review?
Were those Chinese throwing stars?
5 throwing stars on that one.
Yeah,
buddy.
I mean, those weren't just regular stars.
If you're in the United States and you write us a review, we'd be happy to send you out a BJJ Brick gi patch. just email us at gmail. Let's do like a gmail.com. How about bjjbrick@gmail.com? That's a good one. And we'll get your information from you. And our last one was from our buddy in Canada. Send us an email at bjjbrick@gmail.com. We'll be happy to get with you, buddy.
Yep, we appreciate all your support.
Yep, it means a lot to us. That's the best way to get a hold of us is our Gmail account, or we have a Facebook page on www.facebook.com, and then look for BJJ Brick. And that's fun.
Or you can put in an ad under personals on Craigslist, say looking for Byron, and maybe he'll answer.
Somebody named Byron, and from my experience, most Byrons are kind of strange. We'll probably get with you.
True that.
Yep, that's my experience with Byrons anyway.
So, Byron, tell everybody why they should tune in next week.
Next week, it's going to be an amazing show. This show was fun because we had a well-known author, and he's written a lot of cool articles, and that's fun to pull stuff from. We have another well-known author in the jiu-jitsu community, Mark Mullen, and a quote from Sam Spiegelman. Bada boom, bada bing.
So you definitely got to tune in next week.
Yeah, I'm excited about that one. So Mark Mullen, he originally from Canada, now he's in Taiwan, teaching jiu-jitsu.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's taking him around the world, and he shares some fun experiences about trying to find his way, and some difficulties he's had with language and stuff, and some of the joys about traveling and doing jiu-jitsu and going to Brazil and traveling there too. So fun interview. A lot of knowledge from both these guys today, and this week and next week. The jiu-jitsu. When you write articles, I think it helps you really think about what you want to think about jiu-jitsu, with. And that was a well-structured sentence.
Yes, definitely. I don't think that was a run-on.
So that's going to be a great episode.
So definitely, we appreciate you listening. Tune in next week.
And stay sweaty, my friends.
And don't forget the soap.
Thank you for listening. I hope you find the time today to roll. After all, the best way to get better at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is to do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.